Tony Blair and his sprawling devolution program has bolstered Nicola Sturgeon's intense push for an independent Scotland, a trade unionist told Express. Calls for Scottish independence ramped up this week after the Scottish National Party's (SNP) National Executive Committee (NEC) published a paper outlining that an independence referendum deadline of March 31 must be set for Westminster in advance of the Scottish Parliament election in May. The deadline would include the requirement to agree to a Section 30 request which would transfer power to Holyrood for a referendum. Should Prime Minister Boris Johnson refuse to accept the order, the paper says Ms. Sturgeon and the SNP must make independence the focus of the upcoming Holyrood election campaign, in May. The SNP have spent the past 6 years slowly building up another case for breaking away from the UK following former leader Alex Salmond's failure to win enough support in the 2014 referendum. He said it was a once-in-a-generation ballot, a point which Mr. Johnson has used in his refusal to entertain the idea of a second referendum. Calls for Scottish independence have lingered for decades. Paul Embury, a leading trade unionist and Labour member, said the feeling for breaking away was very much the reason why former Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair embarked on his mass devolution program after coming to power in 1997. Mr. Blair himself went as far as to tell Holyrood magazine in 2019 that had he not rolled out devolution north of the border, you might have had an independent Scotland by now. Yet Mr. Embury told Express that it was this very push for devolution by Mr. Blair's New Labour that has led to Britain's current constitutional crisis. He said, I think the strength of feeling for independence in the devolved administrations, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, tends to grow when the Tories are in Westminster. Many people in those countries are not Tories and see the Tories as the enemy and see independence as some sort of escape from it. But in many respects I think the genie's out of the bottle. Ironically, the whole point of the new Labour government under Tony Blair, bringing in devolution 20 years ago, was because it felt there were moves towards independence, and actually devolution was a way of choking it off, choking off any campaign for independence.